The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
And Giant grabs Piper and pulls up his kilt so Hogan can hit Piper's scar with a chair. Then he does a running shoulder tackle to it.
Surprising myself, I was sports entertained during this match, which is weird because, it was Nick Patrick.
Stevie Ray still needs to be the leader of the NWO.
I don't think I was watching WCW at that point.
Nobody was. That's why they're not around anymore.
Yeah, I mentioned that match. He said it all casually. I told you it was a physical match.
Yeah. No, it was a good match. Is it going to be like Austin Bret Hart? No. But for what it was, for what it could have been, it's really good. Well, up next is our Wrestling Rewind. And this week is World War III from WCW. What a pay-per-view this was.
It wasn't bad outside of the main event, which I would say that the main event wasn't terrible. There was just a lot going on. And your favorite side-by-side, although it was 3 screens this time.
It was.
And 3 commentators. And all talking.
No. It was 6 commentators.
Oh, yeah. All going at the same time. So,
you know what? Actually, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Oh, I don't know. I just thought it was a lot.
It was a lot. It was not as bad because I thought they were all just going to start shouting, kind of like a live stream where you see a whole bunch of people and they're all talking at once because they don't know how to fucking wait their turn.
Yeah.
But for having 6 people doing commentary, I thought that was the best you could do it.
Yeah. I didn't know who was talking at some points, but at least they were talking one at a time, though.
So it starts off with a very quick video package. Kind of feels like we're getting lazy now. I know what's coming up in this pay-per-view, but I couldn't follow the video. And then we cut to Norfolk, Virginia. Shivani, Heenan, and Dusty are on commentary. They boost up the World War III match. And they announce that Piper and Hogan are having a contract signing for the main event for Starrcade. And apparently Eric Bischoff has been trying to stall it. And the first match of the evening is Rey Mysterio Jr. versus the Ultimo Dragon, which the announcer called him the Ultimate Dragon. And this is where we find out that Bischoff has officially made his turn, and it was on the previous Nitro, so he's officially with the NWO. As far as the match, it was a decent match. Ultimo Dragon did a Cesaro swing. The fucker made himself dizzy. And Ultimo Dragon won by countering Rey's Hurricane Rana with a sit-down powerbomb. Seemed like he did a lot of powerbombs.
Yeah, but that was his moveset. That, and, he was like the suplex master.
I thought the part where Mysterio and Ultimo Dragon were fighting behind the commentary team, I thought that was really weird because they didn't turn around at all or react. And they even talked about it it looks like we're watching something else. Oh, no, we're just watching.
You got to watch the monitor.
Yeah. Why would we watch the live action right behind us when we can watch a TV screen? Just weird.
It's the thing. You got to watch the monitor.
Okay.
But yeah, I like this match. I put it at match of the night, even though it was first match.
Really?
Yeah, all the reversals. There was a gorgeous, I think it was a full Nelson suplex by the Ultimate Dragon.
Suplex. Did you take it right?
Well, he landed right on the back of his neck.
Oh, good.
So probably overshot it. If you want to mark up a little bit. But yeah, the running powerbomb looked good. For some reason, Ultimate Dragon had 8 titles. This is the Dragon I remember having all them damn belts. So he had 8 titles. The only one he was missing that they kept saying was the Cruiserweight title. And the match was for all 8 titles. so yeah. If Rey Mysterio could have been 8-time champion or whatever the hell. Yeah. But he lost. But yeah, I did put it as match of the night easily for me.
For me, this was just kind of a match. I like Ultimo Dragon's ring gear, though. Mean Gene talks to DDP next. And I guess the NWO has been trying to recruit Diamond Dallas Page to their ranks. I guess he's sufficiently over. Oh, no, they have Vincent, so Page can join him. And Page is non-committal. I'm just out for myself. This is my time. And Gene says, well, Bischoff's your next-door neighbor. So naturally, that means you're going to defect to the NWO any day. So you need to come clean right now. Page says he doesn't care what Bischoff does. All he's worried about is World War III. And it was just 1 year ago that I shocked the world and won the Lord of the Ring. Now I have an opportunity to earn another title shot I'll never get.
I did have questions of Is he still the ring holder, or has he already tried to cash in?
I
Where
think
is the ring? Because he wasn't wearing it.
I don't know.
Because he did get it back last pay-per-view.
He did.
So where was it now?
Doesn't matter. He never got his title shot. Nick Patrick and Chris Jericho had a match. A one arm tied behind my back match. Chris Jericho, of course, is the one with the arm tied behind his back. And I thought Nick Patrick was a great evil referee, especially the way he came out with the sunglasses and the towel around his neck, and he's scowling. He's holding up his fist to the camera. Chris Jericho's going to get this. And apparently Heenan is the only one in the entire WCW who isn't quite sure that Nick Patrick is part of the NWO, because he said he wasn't sure, and Shivani's like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? Dusty's even like, come on now. So Jericho won, of course, with a super kick. It was pretty much what it should have been, I guess. Patrick was great. I love how he'd flail his arms every time Jericho would hit him. There was one part where Jericho slapped him, and he just held his arms up and just fell backwards like a turtle. And yeah, it wasn't very long. It was entertaining. Wasn't the match of the night, though.
Yeah, surprising myself. I was sports entertained during this match, which is weird because, it was Nick Patrick. But yeah, everything he was doing, as you were pointing out, like he would take the chops and he'd throw his hands up and
Get his ass kicked.
all his little like mannerisms, and like at one point he tried to do the test of strength with Jericho and he gave that little smirk like, I got him. He puts one hand up and then he tries to get the other hand, and Jericho's hands tied behind his back, so he's looking back at the crowd like smirking. And then there was one point where he got thrown into the turnbuckle and he had his hands up and he was flailing and he was like convulsing from a turnbuckle.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah. I was thoroughly sports entertained, which I did not see coming.
Yeah.
Because remember last week I was like, oh, great.
You're right. Yeah, I expected to hate every second of this, but it surprised me.
I kind of felt better about it when they said he used to wrestle. It's like, okay, so he knows what he's doing a little bit.
Well, yeah, and they did it right because he's a referee. He shouldn't be anywhere near Chris Jericho's level, and he wasn't, even with the handicap. And Nick Patrick got offense in, but it wasn't effective offense. Jericho basically hurt himself.
Yeah, and then there was at one point where he was getting the punches in, and he throwing them like a boxer. So yeah, pretty good match. Well, for what it was, pretty good match.
Yeah, it was a good match. Is it going to be like Austin Bret Hart? No, but for what it was, for what it could have been, it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, going out of it, I was even thinking to myself, if he was like, he being Nick Patrick, if he was like a weekly wrestler, now I'm not saying, he would be competing for a title or anything, but if he was like a week-to-week wrestler, I wouldn't even bat an eye at it.
I thought he was better than the referee that WWF had.
Yeah, it was that guy who was suspended for whatever reason. Yeah.
Well, next, Shivani, Dusty, and Heenan speculate on what's going to happen at the contract signing, because Piper's picking a fight. And then Mean Gene talks to Ric Flair, whose arm is in a sling. Flair says Hogan and the NWO can do whatever they want, but he, Arn Anderson, Stinger, Lex Luger, and the others represent W, by God, CW. Flair says he's incapacitated right now, but before it's all said and done, the Nature Boy's going to dance all night, and the NWO will belong to WCW. Then he struts like he's having a seizure. And then the Giant versus Jeff Jarrett. This is a rematch from Halloween Havoc. The Giant still has the U.S. title that he stole from Flair, and I guess Flair was stripped due to a 30-day no-compete clause, but that doesn't mean the Giant is the champion. He just has the belt. And Jarrett and Giant have a pretty basic match until Sting appears in crow form in the rafters. And Sting eventually makes his way to the ring through the crowd. And while that happens, Jarrett gets a Giant to fall out of the ring. Then Sting comes up from behind Jarrett and hits him with his Scorpion Death Drop. So now Sting is obviously with the NWO. And Sting leaves. Giant finally hits Jarrett with his long-ass choke slam for the 1-2-3.
Yeah, I don't know. This match was just kind of there.
Yeah.
The fans were going apeshit when Sting appeared up at the Raptors.
Oh, great. Something we can enjoy.
Yeah. I know there's a match and all, but look up there. I didn't remember where this was going. The whole Sting. I guess I remember the is he in or is he out? And then finally he's in. I think. I know he does join, but I don't know if it's like directly off of this or if it's later.
Join the NWO?
Yeah,
I think he joins the Wolfpack.
he definitely does join the Wolfpack.
I don't think he joins the NWO.
Okay.
Or if he does, it's like later.
Well, at that point, they would have been dissolved after.
Well, no, Stevie Ray still needs to be the leader of the NWO.
I don't think I was watching WCW at that point.
Nobody was. That's why they're not around anymore.
I think I'd moved on.
But yeah, that was Giant versus Jarrett. Then we get to the Roddy Piper and Hollywood Hulk Hogan contract signing. And this is for the WCW World Heavyweight title at Starrcade. Piper comes out and he says he has the contract, so Hogan, get your oiled ass out here. And Bischoff comes out, flanked by DiBiase, Vincent, Giant's behind him. And Bischoff says Hogan's too busy. He's reading scripts. He's made me his power of attorney. I'll look at your contract and sign it if it meets our requirements. And Piper does a WrestleMania callback by telling Vincent that he taught him how to fight, so sit the fuck down. And Piper insults Bischoff a bunch of times, questions his manhood, sexuality, says he doesn't give a shit what Bischoff does to WCW or the NWO, doesn't trust him. Bischoff threatens to fine Piper. Piper asks how much to knock him out. Then it's obvious we're getting off track because they're meandering a lot. Because Piper's like, how much to knock you out? You don't have enough. Oh, yeah, I bet I do. Oh, no, you don't. So then Piper says he's fighting Hogan. He doesn't care about the NWO. And if they get to him before the match, they better revive him just in time for the fight. So basically, it sounds like he wants a no DQ match. And Piper tells Bischoff to fuck off, and he calls out Hogan. And then Bischoff says, I don't think so. But then Hogan comes out anyway. So Hogan comes out with the Outsiders, the terrifying Elizabeth, and the Giant, who's come out for a second time now. And Hogan gets belted in the face on the way to the ring with a wad of trash. It's kind of funny. And Hogan gets to the ring and he tells Piper that he has a problem now. And Piper says, get your ass in here. Sign this contract. Quit talking. Naturally, Hogan gets in the ring and starts talking. And Hogan says that he's used to dealing with number one contenders, men that are on his level. When Piper was Hogan's equal 10 years ago, he couldn't get the job done. Now look at you. Show him your hip. Piper sits there looking ashamed while Hogan demands Piper show him his hip in front of the camera. Piper finally reveals his hip. It's a little white and pale and stuff, but nothing wrong with it. And Hogan says, bullshit. Pulls up Piper's kilt and reveals a large scar on Piper's other hip. And Hogan says he usually doesn't pick fights with cripples. And he says he looks like Peg-Leg Pete. And Hogan says, I'll sign your contract. And he tells Piper he ain't going to have a leg to stand on. He can't wait to beat up a gimp. Piper attacks Hogan. Then the NWO grab Piper while Hogan wails on him. Piper breaks free and attacks Hogan again. And Giant grabs Piper and pulls up his kilt so Hogan hit Piper's scar with a chair. Then he does a running shoulder tackle to it. I love wrestling. Then Hogan sprays NWO on Piper's leg, then hawks a loogie on him. He went, to it. Piper gets up, tosses the table at the NWO, and then they just leave. Piper grabs a mic, tells Hogan that that's the best he can do. He's in trouble at Starrcade. Then Hogan walks away, telling Bischoff he's going to pull Piper's hip out. Then Piper limps away to the entrance area. Then he falls down and crawls through smoke. Can't help but thinking how much more impactful this would have been if Piper was just left laying.
Well, he was being defiant. But yeah, it was a funny segment that they attacked his hip.
Good stuff, I guess. I do remember this vaguely.
I don't remember the match. Actually, don't remember this at all. Like, any of it. I'll have to see where it's going.
So the Amazing French Canadians faced Harlem Heat, and Colonel Robert Parker, the most Kentucky fried son of a bitch in WCW, is Quebecian now. So let that sink in. So if Harlem Heat wins, Sherry gets 5 minutes alone with Parker in the ring. So I like when Harlem Heat get to the ring, they do their corner poses. Well, Stevie, he goes to the corner and he just snatches the Canadian flags and tosses them. And then he does his pose and he stares at the French Canadians the entire time. The French Canadians, they sing the Canadian anthem poorly. It's a thing they carried over from WWF, apparently. And did we see our first spin-a-rooney tonight?
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, Booker eventually throws one of the Canadians into the referee. and then he eats a spike pile driver. And then the Canadians get 2 steel steps and a table. Then they prop up the table in the corner, and then they put one set of steel steps on top of the table and then the other set of steel steps on the bottom, making it pretty useless. And then one of the Canadians gets on the top ropes while the other one holds his hands, and then he just somersaults and he misses. All that for that.
Yeah, I was wondering where they were going with it. It's like, well, they're really going to do some damage here to whoever, I think it was Booker at the time. They're really going to do some damage. Oh, no, wait, they're going to jump off it themselves.
Yeah, it just seemed like a wasted opportunity to me. So Booker hits the Harlem Hangover, and he gets the 1, 2, 3. So then Sherry gets her 5 minutes with Parker. And Sherry kicks Parker's ass until he runs away. Like she kicked his ass from one ring to the other. So this means that Sherry would completely annihilate Medusa.
I mean, he's weaker at this point, I guess. He's older.
It's a year.
And they even mentioned it. He got no offense.
0.
He got absolutely nothing.
The commentary team was tickled pink when Sherry clotheslined Parker.
They sure were. And even when they were recapping what just happened, they were like, she clotheslined him twice.
Shivani, Dusty, and Heenan all wonder what condition Piper will be in heading into Starrcade. Then they play a Starrcade ad with the same weird guy that did the World War III ad. So there's that. And then Mean Gene talks to Lex Luger. But first, Gene pimps the hotline, because you got to do that. And then Gene wants to know about the baseball bat Sting handed to him on Nitro. Luger says he has no fucking clue, but he hopes that it's not a sign of the NWO. But at the same time, Sting turned his back on Luger, so no one knows. Then Luger says he's ready to win World War III. And up next is Psychosis versus Dean Malenko for the Cruiserweight title. And apparently, Malenko and Regal had a TV title match on like Nitro or something before this. How the fuck did that not make pay-per-view?
I don't know. But yeah, I guess it was for the TV title, which Regal won, apparently.
So Heenan was quick to point out that Psychosis's hair looks like Peg Bundy. And he was drunk or something tonight. He tried the springboard thing and fucked up and went face first into a guardrail. Malenko, he got him back in the ring and he does head-related offense, so he didn't give a shit about anything. And Malenko beat the piss out of Psychosis for a long-ass time. Like, at one point, he even had him upside down, just in this leg stretch thing. Psychosis finally gets some offense and does this corkscrew plancha to Malenko on the floor from the top rope. And he almost did his head on the apron. And then he did a springboard Hurricane Rana, which was pretty good. The tombstone spot was awesome. Where they did
the reversals?
Yeah, they kept reversing it.
Mm-hmm.
And Malenko won out of nowhere with a sunset flip after dark. At least that's what Heenan called it. And it was nothing flashy, just Dean Malenko. But this was a great match.
Absolutely.
And I thought Psychosis's ring gear was awesome.
Dean Malenko came out with the vest. Was this Horseman Malenko?
Anderson needs to retire first.
Okay.
Which it seems like we're getting close to that because he's all fucked up.
Yeah, from nothing. Or from something we didn't see.
I think he's still fucked up from the attack from Luger.
Oh, well, nice selling.
The Outsiders versus Nasty Boys versus Faces of Fear for the tag team titles. This was a brutal match, all things considered. And I'm glad they didn't do the split screen bullshit with this one, because that would have been a bridge too far for me. Like, I've yet to skip anything in these pay-per-views. I think I would have skipped it if they went split screen.
That makes sense.
It was a standard tag match, because WCW does that. I guess there's not a good way you can do a multiple man tag match. It's either a tornado tag or it looks weird with like the traditional tag rules.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of off-putting watching people from opposing teams tag in other people. Just seems like a very anti-winning strategy.
That makes sense, but they're trying to, I guess, uphold the integrity of sport.
Sure. So eventually Ming and Knobs are in the ring and they meet in the center and they have a stare down. Then they slowly just start nodding their head in understanding. Then they go to the Outsiders corner and tag in Hall and Nash. Hall and Nash don't know what to do, and they're confused as fuck. So they try to tag in some other guys who bail to the floor. Now it looks like Hall and Nash, they have to fight. So then Hall and Nash charge each other to the center of the ring, and then Nash just lays down so Hall can slowly cover him. So naturally, all the teams break up the pin, and then all hell breaks loose. Nash hits a powerbomb on Knobs after Hall hit him with Jimmy Hart's megaphone. Oh yeah, Jimmy Hart was there. And then Nash pins Knobs, who's not the legal man.
He's not, because both of the NWO members were legal.
Yes.
That's another thing I wrote down. It's like, give him a little pass here, but both the NWO members were tagged in, and then they broke the pin up, but no one knew tagged in. So
nope. It went to a brawl. Knobs got hit. Nash hit him with the powerbomb, and he got pinned. There's no tag.
Yeah. So they pinned the not legal man.
WWF did this way better when the New Age Outlaws were in a similar situation.
I don't know what I was thinking here. I was like, oh, did they get away with it? But no.
Well, finally, we have our World War III match. As they set up, they sell us on the Starrcade main event. They said Piper went into the Lion's Den, picked the fight of the century. And then Tony the Tiger, Larry Zbyszko make an appearance. So does Mike Tenay. And then they tell us Benoit and Sullivan had a banger of a match that probably wouldn't have worked on this pay-per-view, because you got to have Nick Patrick instead. Tenay and Dusty, they talk about all these great matches. Oh man, if you just want to watch Nitro, you could have seen Malenko and Regal. Well, then Benoit and Sullivan, they had this awesome match where they went to the bathroom and the Faces of Fear came out of the stalls. If only you would have seen that.
Yeah, and they both look beat to hell.
I didn't see Sullivan, but Benoit looked like shit.
Yeah, he was beat to hell too. Yeah, and he was like, oh, yeah, I mentioned that match. He said it all casually. I told you it was a physical match.
Yeah.
Like, well, you undersold it then. Golly.
Could we have bumped the Giant and Jeff Jarrett off for that? I mean, I'm just looking at this card. I don't know. Tenay and Dusty talk about how a title opportunity awaits the winner of World War III. And Dusty just does not give any of the cruiserweights a chance in hell of winning. And basically everyone picks Luger to win. Except for Shivani. The Giant. You can hear one of them just go, huh. So then everybody comes out at once, which was really weird. And Anderson is still banged up from, I'm presuming, the Luger attack. That's the only thing that makes sense. Either he got attacked after and it worsened his injuries or something. I don't know. So then the NWO all come out at once. I noticed that Six shaved his beard, making him look like a child once again. Mm-hmm. And then more WCW people follow, which means they put no thought into that at all. Would have made more sense if the NWO was the last to come out all at once. Because if you think about it, that means the NWO people are sandwiched in between two groups of WCW people. And if they're supposed to be warring, wouldn't the WCW people just jump the NWO?
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny watching the people that did come out give 120% into their gimmicks for the 3 seconds that they were on camera.
Yeah, they all had their little thing.
This is my moment. These 3 seconds are going to put me in the main event.
Oh, by the way, I didn't mention it earlier. I always like how Harlem Heat, they're always like talking to the camera as they're coming out in their entrance. I don't even understand what they're saying, but they always got something to say to the camera.
Yeah, I really appreciate Harlem Heat. So then they did the fucking split screens.
I didn't even know who a lot of these people were.
Yeah.
I'm like, who's this guy?
The Dungeon of Doom and Horsemen break into a fight and pretty much get disqualified from the match right off the bat. And they fight all over the place.
Benoit can't be separated.
Yeah. And they fight all the way in the stands, then back, and yeah, so they're gone. And the World War III match goes on as normal. NWO, they stand in one corner, just all to themselves, and they slowly pick off people that get near them. And Tony the Tiger, he gets fucked up at some point, but he gets back on commentary, so I guess it wasn't that bad.
Funny thing about that, though, is there was a point where Barbarian, the Faces of Fear, was stomping him while he was on the ground.
Yeah. So unnecessary.
Yeah.
He was pissed off at Zbyszko for not doing anything. And Tony Rumble got eliminated. I can't believe it. He was my dark horse to win. There were also wrestlers named Jimmy Graffiti, Galaxy, Rage, Renegade, Chaos, Joe Gomez, Roadblock, Bunkhouse Buck, Disco Inferno, Joe Stud, Jim Powers, JL, and Jack Boot. Neither of them won.
Some good naming there, I guess.
Yeah. Rick Steiner was in the match. They mentioned Scott Steiner. I didn't see him.
I didn't either.
So I think Rick was there all alone. At one point, everybody in one ring gangs up on this Ron Stud, not Joe Stud, on Ron Stud. And they're literally, everybody's taking turns giving him a Stinger Splash. And then Stud eventually falls to the mat. And then everybody piles on top of him for the pin, while the referee is clearly telling the retards that he needs to go over the rope. And then there's people coming in late to pile on too.
And then finally, Lex Luger jumps on the pile.
Yeah. And then they stop pinning him and they all just start fighting each other. So
yeah, I was like, what's about to happen? Is he going to throw everybody out? He's going to kick out so powerful and throw them all out. Which would have been ridiculous, of course. But
of course.
Otherwise, they all look like dumbasses.
Right.
And not knowing the rules.
Booker T gets dumped onto Heenan's monitor. And possibly for the first time and only time in his career, his monitor legitimately goes out. So then finally everything just randomly stops so the NWO and WCW can have a standoff. DDP is alone in the corner and he targets Eddie Guerrero, who I believe he's feuding with. And it causes speculation on Page's allegiance. And it also makes sense. Page is only out for himself and he would target the guy he's feuding with. I thought there was a lot of brilliance in that horse shit.
Well, I do want to point out that before that happened, there was a moment where Eddie Guerrero did a over the top rope splash onto someone who was on the outside, and they didn't.
Oh, was that before that?
Yeah, and then he got back in the ring.
I do remember that. I don't think they really cared.
It's like they're
like, is that guy eliminated? Oh, sure, he's gone.
Yeah, I mean the commentators kept saying Regal was eliminated, but he wasn't. And then they're like, oh, was he eliminated? I don't know.
It was a cluster.
Yeah.
Mysterio, who lasted a long ass time, got tossed out by the Giant with one hand. And the scream Ray made when he landed on Eddie was funny. And it was also funny when Jarrett was just standing there watching. The stare down shit meant nothing because WCW guys they still fought each other. So I don't know what that was all about. And eventually it's down to Luger and all 5 members of the NWO. And Luger takes out everyone and almost gets the Giant in the torture rack. Hall goes for the Razor's Edge to Luger by the ropes. And of course he gets dumped because he's an idiot. Luger tosses 6. He kind of does like a mini version of what Giant did to Ray. And then Luger gets Nash in the torture rack. And then Giant dumps both of them for the win. And it looks like Nash got fucked up. And Giant earns a title shot. Hogan's title. So does Giant face Piper? Does Giant face Hogan? Does Giant protect Hogan? Who knows? But the NWO posed to close out the show, leaving us with nothing but questions.
Yeah. Be interesting to see what happens next time.
And this was a missable pay-per-view to me. I don't like the idea of selling one pay-per-view on another pay-per-view. It's like, why the fuck did I pay for this one?
I don't think they did it too hard. Just like the Piper Hogan thing.
But pretty uneventful for me.
Well, I liked it. The main event, again, it was a cluster. So much was going on. The stupid screens. So I'm supposed to watch all 3 screens at the same time? Or am I supposed to pick and choose? If it's nowadays, they would like be laying down in the corner somewhere so that you can see like the main spot that they're trying to show you. But this, like, everybody was doing their own thing.
Right.
And it was just impossible to keep up with. Like, Sullivan and Benoit fighting outside. And this was before the match even started. And then the NWO getting involved. Regal coming in and out of the ring. Yeah, there was a lot going on there.
And it seemed like nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah. Now, I did think that Luger was going to pull it off at the end there, though. I thought he was going to do the 5-on-1. It would have only made sense in wrestling logic that he does that, especially WCW wrestling logic, because we know being severely underhanded doesn't mean anything in WCW.
But that is World War III.
Not too shabby, I guess. I don't know. I was looking for something. I can't like really be positive about it, but you know,
We'll see what happens at Starrcade.
yeah. It's just, I guess, the concept of the World War III with the monitors and not knowing what the hell's going on that
Yeah.
doesn't help. But
I like
the other matches were pretty good.
I like the idea of the 3 rings. It felt like they just had them side by side last year. I could be wrong.
I don't know.
We have Starrcade next for WCW. Before that is WrestleMania 13 on the WWF side. And this is presented to us by PlayStation. And is held in the Rosemont Horizon venue in Chicago. It's the second WrestleMania to be held in Chicago after WrestleMania 2. And the main event was a no DQ match between Psycho Sid and The Undertaker for the WWF Championship. We have Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin and the famous for the I Quit match. And then Legion of Doom, Ahmed Johnson face off against the Nation of Domination in a Chicago street fight. We have Rocky Maivia versus the Sultan for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. And the Bret Hart Stone Cold Steve Austin match was praised as one of the greatest of all time and cited as the beginning of the Attitude Era. This is also kind of around the time when you remember the Final Four. Austin got eliminated in the Royal Rumble, came back in. He eliminated Bret after Bret thought he won. So then they had a match at the next pay-per-view between the Final Four people in the Royal Rumble match. I think.
Oh yeah, it was In Your House.
Yeah.
It was like Vader.
It was Vader,
Undertaker.
Austin, Taker, and Bret. And I think Bret won, but then Psycho Sid won it like immediately after. Because this is also when Shawn lost his smile.
Didn't he lose to Sid?
No, he dropped the belt because he lost his smile.
Oh, well. Now we're getting into like stuff we actually remember, which is fun.
Yep, that's next week. Definitely looking forward to Bret and Austin, if anything.
A good Sultan appearance too. I think this is like going to be his only appearance.
Possibly, yeah.
And the debuting Rocky Maivia. Well, not debuting, but you know.
WrestleMania debut.
Yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for the show. If you disagree with anything, let us know in the comments. If you agree with anything, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button, do all the things. And until next time, top guys.